The following presentation is a production of Ride the Wave Media.
Hello and welcome to episode 8. This is Courtney Pearl, pagan witch, card reader, healer, spiritualist, Celtic priestess, teacher, artist, and mystic seeker. I am discovering true and real magic in the world, and I would like to share it with you. Today, joining me is Amanda McCombs. She is Mrs. Daybreak. She is a teacher at Advantage Arts Academy here in Daybreak, a fellow resident and mom. And she's joining me here on this episode we're calling Trauma and Crap, because we're here to talk about the journey of trauma and crap that happens.
And crap.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All the crap. So we're going to start our episode like we usually do with pulling a card. I have an oracle deck here today. I'm going to pull a card from, it's called the Elemental Oracle deck. This was actually
so shiny, you guys.
beautiful. It has a foil edge to it. The artwork is lovely. This was actually my first deck ever. And my sister got me this and a tarot deck for my birthday once. And I was like just interested in it, but I was like, oh, yeah, this is great. And then my life began. So here we are. I'm going to pull a card from this deck and we'll see what this is meaning for us today. This might be a deck.
In my eyes.
This might be just for you. This might be for our listeners. This might be for the episode. I'm not sure. So we'll find out. Pull it.
Let's see where it takes us.
And I have the electricity card. I'm going to try to show it to you because it is amazing and it looks like you.
She is on fire. Holy smokes.
Yes. And it looks to me, it's hard to tell because it's so fiery. It's just like this bright light in the middle.
She's full of light. Yeah.
Full of light and wow. But it looks like her hair is red and like long and flowing. It looks like you. So I'm like, wow, that's so appropriate.
That's weird.
It's just gorgeous.
I don't know. Glowing, radiating from the center. Oh, yeah, I can totally see. That's beautiful. Holy smokes.
So this card often shows up as very action-oriented. It's like fire element. So it's electricity cannot be contained. It must go where it needs to go. There's action involved. So it's like anything that you're thinking about doing and it's been charging for a while, you need to let that electricity flow and just blast through you because there's no controlling it.
Channel it. I have to try to channel it.
Go.
Try to focus it.
Yeah.
In a direction. That's hard to pick.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's so true. That's so true.
Whoa,
but the word that comes with this is wildness. So it is like about totally tuning into the body and what is natural because it takes electrical current for the heart to pump. Even if it's an emotional experience or the heart is directing it, it needs that electrical current to push it into action. Go.
I'm like thinking of a superhero.
Yeah, it is. It's very lightning-esque. I'm super into reading those fantasy novels about magic and things like that. And somebody always has electrical.
Yes.
See?
I actually just finished Iron Flame. So that's very appropriate.
I've been reading,
Yeah. You've been reading that one too?
I love all those kind of books. I just devour them. And I should be reading more of my academic books that I'm supposed to be reading, but I get super into those because it makes magic that is fantasy or fiction like real to me. This is how it shows up to me in my life. It doesn't look like that, like Harry Potter. It doesn't look like that,
like Harry
but
Potter.
It feels like that.
Yeah.
It makes it real for me.
I just barely, we're going to get a little off topic, but I love books. I love books. I teach first grade. And I have to get them excited about reading because that's when they switch from learning how to read to just being able to read and read for fun and read whatever they want. Like I told one of my students yesterday that they could pick up any book they wanted to read and just read it. Like your reading scores are amazing. You can read whatever you want and they just don't. And then I pulled up a book that's, what is it? There's a dragon in the family. And she was like, oh, what?
Yes.
And you can totally read that anyway. But I love finding those stories and letting that imagination go a little wild, so to speak.
And anyone who's been listening to the episodes we started with, I try to relate to that with kids in that spells or magic is actually stories. That's where the magic really is. It's in the stories. I tell kids, be real careful about the stories you tell about yourself. That's where healing happens, is when you start to understand or rewrite the stories that you're telling about yourself. But isn't it just magical if you really stop to think about it? And I always try to get kids to understand when they're in that stage of getting to read books.
Ooh, wonder and
I'm
stuff,
like,
yeah.
these are the same alphabet you've been learning, okay? They're just letters. They're just letters and sounds. But in combining that, in making use of it, you literally get to step into other worlds. Like, you get to be a part of a whole journey by just reading.
Cool.
It is so cool. I was a teacher, so obviously that kind of thing amazes me, but trying to relate that to other people, I'm like, oh, like, that's magic, you guys. That's magical.
You want something that could be like totally arbitrary, but words have power.
Exactly.
Right?
Absolutely.
The power we give them anyway.
Episode 2, everybody. Listen to episode 2. The words talks about the power of words. So that's super relatable. I want you to tell us a little bit about your story. I want you to go through and help us understand how you got to be a part of the Mrs. Daybreak pageant and what that's all about, but also what led you.
If you were to ask me even a year ago if this was something that I wanted to do, it was not on my radar at all. 100%. I actually applied. It's for the Mrs. Utah America pageant. And you can just put in whatever title, as long as you live in that vicinity, then you can have that title. And then you get your second your second choice. And I got my first one, which was Mrs. Daybreak. And right after they said that was the title that I got, they announced Barbie Land. And it was, so I applied in September and Daybreak was starting to make some waves. And I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this kind of public attention, because when I signed up, I had no idea how big of a deal it was. Like Miss Congeniality. 1 in a million. Yeah, it's that pageant. It's that one. So they have a Miss and a Mrs. And it's connected with a really cool charity, Victoria's Voice. I'll send links and everything so Courtney can post them too for overdose prevention. Anyway, I seriously never thought I would ever be in a beauty pageant. And somebody at the school is on the production board. And I saw her, I usually see her in sweats, and I saw her social media, and she's wearing like all these glittery, shiny, sparkly dresses, and she's dancing with Todrick Hall in Vegas. Then she shows up in sweats the next day. And
we're all just real.
What life is that? Come on. And she was like, oh, that was actually for Mrs. America. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And I didn't put them together.
Yeah.
And
I don't know anything about pageantry circuits or anything like that. But this is amazing to me.
Yeah, either. It's a whole new world. All the girls are pretty and nice, and they've all been through stuff too. They're usually there to share their voice, right?
Yeah.
So I applied, and then I got Mrs. Daybreak. And then I looked up and started learning more about the pageant and everything that went into it, and how it's not just like how you look.
Good.
Walking in a swimsuit. Swimsuit is 1/4 of my score, and then my evening gown is another quarter. Mostly that's just me being able to walk in heels across the stage. And the other half of it is my interview. And I just have to show that I have had an impact, and it's more like it's a celebration of women. We're not in competition with each other. We're like, wow, how can I help be a champion for your cause? You have my back, I have yours. We all call each other Sash sisters. And I didn't even know that was a thing. I have those, and I have friends.
Yeah.
I didn't have those in high school. really. I had guys, like we were talking about earlier. I had guy friends that I
Mhm.
would hang out, and then it was like my boyfriend and his friends. That's who I would hang out with, and their girlfriends, which was great. But none of the friends were friends that were really my own that stuck around.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of trauma back there. And there were a lot of times where I was sharing my story and I was saying that these things were happening to me and I was literally not being heard. And I
Mhm.
got quiet. But there are other reasons I got quiet. Like lots of reasons I got quiet. I've had multiple stalkers and I didn't want to be seen and I didn't want to be found. And I'm finally in a place where I am safe, like more than 20 years later. I'm safe and I'm loved and I can share my story. And I'm not the only one that has had things like this happen to me. And it's okay for things to not be okay. So I started like being a champion for that cause after I got involved with the pageant. But what
Wow.
people didn't know, and what this lady really didn't know when she talked to me about joining, is that so I submitted my application in September, and it was just after my mother passed away, very unexpectedly.
Wow.
Like, I spoke with her a week after school started, and then the next Saturday she was gone.
Oh, wow.
And I was supposed to go up and visit her. And instead of like for the long weekend, and instead of going up to visit her, I went to her funeral.
Oh my gosh. And it's
Yeah.
amazing to me that you describe, because we often think of pageants and the pageant experience as being very superficial,
Oh, it is.
but
In some ways.
yeah, but then here you talk about these women are like holding space for each other. That it's you're not alone and that you're allowed to take up space here. You're allowed to be
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And
so
the first that I had sat around all these women in a room, like we have video calls and stuff. We were at a Christmas party with the current Mrs. Utah America. Her name's Bailey. And her platform, I had to learn what a platform was. It's not
I know.
just she's you guys. Her platform it revolves around miscarriage and
Mm,
stillborn babies and caring for moms and supporting them after they go through that, because usually you don't even talk about it, and you don't when they're that little. There isn't really, what can you take with you, what do
mhm.
you have to help you remember that if you need it, and in what ways can you be like, what ways can you support them?
Yeah.
Sorry, my phone is going crazy. There it is.
That's
And so we like have this nice dinner, and I'm sitting around all these ladies that I've never met before, and we've talked on social media, and we've done quick little bios and stalked each other like you do when you're making a new friend.
yeah.
And I walk in this sparkly dress. I had to borrow a dress from a friend. I wore sports bras.
I would too. I would
Like I
not be
didn't have
able to
any
do
clothes
it.
and shoes. I didn't have anything. And all of a sudden I walked in and I had a bunch of brand new best friends that I had never had before. I had lost all my friends in high school, all my girlfriends.
Mhm.
And the ones that I had kept, like, even now they live long distance. But here
Mhm.
I know if I need anything, or if I'm like, hey, I'm trying to get a bunch of people together to do this, I have people I can look to who can help me and won't think I'm crazy, or they understand my experience and know what I'm trying to do. And they keep coming back. These ladies keep coming back season after season to go through the whole pageant process because it develops them as a person and it makes them more confident. And I didn't know
Mm.
how much I needed that.
Yes.
Um,
So
like,
in grief, you're grieving.
yeah.
Just lost your mom. You had some health issues too, and all these things and the fire.
Oh, so yeah, 1 year. So this, we're recording in February. And a year ago, February 1st, I was diagnosed with shingles and it went through the nerves in my face. And we still don't really know what's going on with me. I'm immunocompromised somehow. We're running all kinds of medical tests, but I am not in my 60s. I'm not old enough to get the shingle shot. Why is this happening to me? And why in my face? It went through my sinuses, all this still I can't feel really. I have
That
like this whole quarter of my face
wow.
like that.
Very painful.
It's awful. And I was misdiagnosed as having an ear infection because that's like back here in my neck is where it started. And the guy took one look at me and was like, "Oh, you have an ear infection." And I was like, "What?" And
Speaking of
then
not being heard or being allowed to take up space as women, let's not even get
that
into the
doesn't sound
medical
right.
community.
Ugh. I go back days later and it's too late for the antiviral to make significant progress. And that this is the result of that. I walk crooked sometimes. I can't walk straight. I'll be walking next to my husband and I'll go off a different direction and he has to come back and get me. Like that sad little puppy that walks over his nip, but
Yeah.
that's me. That's me. But then with that, I couldn't see. This pain, ice pack on my head. I wore an eye patch for a while, sunglasses, hat. My mom's house burned down and I couldn't look at pictures. I had a hard time with people even talking to me. I couldn't even hear the sound of myself breathing.
Wow.
So I couldn't get a lot of details or process any of it until way later. And at the school that I was at, I started off as the PE teacher and working out their ELL program. That's English language learners. But with Shingles, I could not do the bright lights and the echoing sounds, like even with earplugs and headphones and things. It wasn't going to happen. They had me come back as the visual art teacher when I was ready. That couldn't see.
Yeah.
I had prescription sunglasses that I would wear all the time and all kinds. I got a cute little knit witch's hat at the Scottish festival, and all the kids are like, "It's springtime. Why are you wearing a witch's hat?" And I was like, "I can wear this hat whenever I want. You can't
That's
tell
right,
me what
you
to
can.
do. I'm gonna wear it whenever I want." And it was the best because it has a little wire in it. I can bend it however I need to.
Yes.
Anyway, so
I would
yeah,
just
that was
accessorize that anyway, but that's just me.
right. Flowers for springtime. You could do
Yeah.
cute little pumpkins for fall. Drawing some of that.
But you do what you need to do, right? You're trying to
Right.
make it through this day.
And I wanted to be at the school so bad. And this is before my mom even passed away. So this is back in February. And I had just found a love for paddleboarding and beautiful Daybreak, and I couldn't paddleboard anymore
Oh my
because
God.
I couldn't even do the light reflecting on the water. It was
Water,
too bright, and I couldn't drive. My husband had to
Wow.
do all the driving, and I would even, like the little sleep mask things, I would have to wear one of those when we were driving. My eyes couldn't focus. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't read. I couldn't do audiobooks. I couldn't listen to music. So all these people that are like trying to give me
Wow.
things to do while I'm recovering, I couldn't do any of it.
Trapped in your own body, pretty much.
Moaning in pain in bed.
Yeah.
Because
I can't believe this
there's
all
only
just
so much
happened
you
in
can
a
do.
year.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
nuts. What a story. So I know you've talked about like joining the pageant and having the pageant be a catapult for healing for you. What
Yeah.
has that done for you that you feel like what has it been for you?
My mom and I, our last conversation, I was in the bathtub. And it was after the first week of school. And it was hard. Teaching first grade is hard, you guys.
Oh, I know.
No lie. I love them so much, but they're so emotional. And especially at the beginning of the year. They're so sweet and they just need to be seen and loved. And it just sucked all my energy out. And I wasn't used to it anymore because I was going to take a break and not teach anymore. And then I saw that school and I had to be there. I have a pull. This is like,
Yep.
I have a pull to things that need me. And
Yep.
that's where I go. And it's worked out pretty well for me so far. But she kept telling me to take care of myself. And I was sitting in the bathtub And she and I bonded over bath time rituals. Like I have my little tray and I have a little cup holder and the bath salts and the candles and just taking that time for yourself. And she was talking to me about making sure that I did that. And that day happened to be her birthday. And she wasn't feeling good. Like she didn't get to have the kind of birthday that she wanted because she had an upset tummy and she couldn't figure out really what was going on. But she kept talking to me about making sure that I did things to take care of myself. And you can't pour from an empty cup, and make sure that you're doing the things that you need so that you're not getting worn down. Because I was 1 week into the school year and she didn't want me to do all that again. And she and I had a rough and rocky relationship, and we were healing and repairing that. And we were still healing and repairing that. And sorry.
Oh, you're perfectly valid in feeling your feelings about this. This is where emotion comes to be expressed.
Yeah, right? Like, why did I even put on makeup? No one can see me unless we get video. Edit that out. Never mind. Leave it in.
It's
Do whatever
raw.
you want.
It's real. And I, for one, am grateful for your vulnerability and being able to talk about this, because it is important. And you're showing people what the other side of grief or the other side of healing can be. Because healing is not always just like the bath. The bath that you took is, and the conversation you were having, it's healing and it's beautiful, but healing is hard and it's work. And it means bringing up a lot that it's painful.
She and I had like some rocky times off and on. A very nice teenager I was. She got both of her hips replaced at the same time. And she and I, we were there for each other when we needed each other. But I would sneak out and stuff. I was naughty. But then when I was older and I set boundaries, even as a young single parent in my early 20s, I wasn't listened to. And that led to a lot of conflict with her and I. So I'm an adult and I need to be heard. And you're telling me that what I'm doing isn't right, but it is. And it's what works for me.
Familiar kind of breaking through those things of like adulthood and owning.
I'm a grown up and it's hard. So I'm the youngest of 7.
Oh, wow.
And that's a hard, especially because she and I were together. My parents were divorced after 40 years. They didn't get divorced until I was living in Florida when I was 21. So I came back pregnant. This is all other stuff. This is coming soon to a podcast near you. I was in Florida for a year and came back pregnant, and she like helped me get back on my feet. But like when I came back, when I initially got my ticket to come back, I didn't realize I was pregnant. I found out after I left my boyfriend, or I was like, I'm breaking things off with him, but he and I are still living together, and I'm finishing my 2 weeks at my job, and I'm shipping my stuff back home. And he was not very nice about me being pregnant. And I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell anybody. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do about it yet. And then my mom was nice and sweet and took me in, but then she like also held that against me and was like, look at me taking in my unwed single mother daughter and her devil's spawn, right? And she was trying to get me to go to LDS Family Services and give the baby up for adoption. And something inside me, like that, even then, like I was butting heads with her there because I knew what I wanted to do and I knew that I was capable. And even back then, she was like, if you keep this baby, you're not going to go anywhere in your life. I was doing housekeeping in a hospital, and she was like, your life isn't going to go anywhere else. You're not going to be able to make any money. You're just going to be taking care of this kid with this dad that doesn't, like I was getting talked down to a lot. And finally it was like, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah. Sometimes that's the best way to do it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then like I was thinking about it, and I keep being told, I've had the same conversation over and over again. You become the person you needed when you were growing up.
Yes.
And I needed somebody that was compassionate and that let me be my authentic self. And I needed somebody that was an example of showing up and being their authentic self. And I needed somebody that was going to stand up for themselves so that I knew that I
Yeah.
could do that too.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
We're in February 2023. I'd got my shingles. My mom and stepdad's house burns down and they barely make it out alive. And then I have this whole summer where I can't go outside. I can't, like, even with sunglasses, it was awful. I have dogs. I love walking them. I can't. I have a hard time walking them still with the snow. It's hit or miss. If I'm sick, I'm like,
Yeah.
inside, can't do anything. I can finally read, though. Read books.
Yeah. Little things we
Yay.
take for granted. And if nothing else, this story is
Oh
going
my
to make me
gosh.
appreciate everything in my life more. And
Well, and
this
that's what I came through. Matilda's one of my favorite books.
Mm.
It's part of why I became a teacher. I want more Miss Honey in the
Yes.
world and less
Yes.
Trunchbull. I needed to be a Miss Honey for other kids that needed a Miss Honey.
Yes.
And so I was trying to read that with my daughter before I got diagnosed with shingles, and I couldn't read it to her anymore. And I think that was one of the most heartbreaking things in all of it. Is I was getting robbed of so many simple things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even my birthday. My birthday's in February. And February
Oh.
1st, I went to school, but I wasn't feeling good. But I took medicine and I was going to be okay. But I had a headache and I did not. And I'd already been doing the eardrops, whatever. This was the day I got diagnosed with shingles.
Ah.
My head started throbbing and I had to lay down on my classroom floor with a giant ice pack on my head and have my husband pick me up, take me to urgent care again. And they were like, "Oh no, you have shingles." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? I went from an ear infection to freaking chicken pox. What am I? Was I 7? Am I a little kid? Is this happening all over again?" Anyway,
Yep.
that's all way back forever ago. We fast forward to September after my mom's passed away, and I'm literally going through the motions. I don't think this lady knew when she was talking to me about the pageant that, like, I had not eaten for days. And
Wow.
I couldn't stop throwing up. I was in and out of the doctor's office trying to figure out what was wrong with me because I have this awful pain in my tummy that I couldn't figure out, and we're still trying to figure it out. Who knows? After I'm like immunocompromised now, it worse than before. Wait a minute. Delivery. What? I'm sorry. Do you drink
What
this?
is that? Yeah. I haven't seen that one yet. Agave?
Grapefruit. That was a nice surprise.
Are those available to store?
I'm gonna have to find out. He just came back. So they do donuts every Saturday. We're trying to do more experiences as a family. I'll talk about that. I'm sure that they went and got donuts and came back with us. Yay!
Yum.
But I'm gonna crack open. I'm a sucker for
Yeah.
caffeinated sparkling water. 1 second. So she didn't know that I hadn't been eating or that I'm going through all this stuff. She didn't know my mom just passed away. I'm suffering quietly
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want everybody else to know that I going through hell. Because we have to keep up appearances for everybody else. We have to make sure nobody, especially on social media, you have to make sure everybody thinks your life is wonderful and fantastic and amazing and what rainbows and butterflies and like nothing bad happens.
And can I just say, especially in our culture here in Utah, I've lived other places and I do feel that the performance of goodness is a real thing. It's a disconnecting energy. It's a disconnecting. We can't fully connect when we're not vulnerable with each other. But I feel like the culture in Utah, especially for women, is you've got it all together. Like you can't have a hair out of place.
You have to do all of the things.
Mm-hmm.
You can do the cute birthday parties and have the kids in the cute Instagram worthy outfits with their pretty bedrooms, and they have to pose for the pictures and whatever. And then the rest of the time people are just like scrolling on their phones and not paying attention to anything around them. It makes so my hope, like what I'm trying to do, that yes, I hired a social media team because I have to use social media for this pageant. I almost got rid of it, but I'm trying to turn it around to show that you can be authentic and you can be real. Because
Yes.
what is the point in
Right.
living if you're not living for yourself? And if you're not showing up for yourself
Uh,
first, you can't show up for anybody else.
yes.
So,
Ultimately, the message.
right?
Oh my God.
Back to this conversation with this lady where I'm the production manager of this beauty pageant and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, I would need a lot of work to be in a beauty pageant. And she was like, no, you don't. And she sent me the application. And I thought about it. And especially with not I wasn't eating. I was not doing a good job taking care of myself. Why would I even do that? That would be nuts. And I just did what was expected of me and asked some questions, and I talked to my husband. Still not really letting on that I'm really not doing a good job taking care of myself. And that was all that my mom was saying in my last
Yes.
conversation with her.
Yes.
And I'm seeing all these little signs from her. So I did it. And then I became Mrs. Daybreak, which is a really scary title. I'm sure I could have done a lot more things with it, but
I love it.
I am a teacher full time. And I think being there and showing up for those kids was really important. But once I started showing up for myself, I think my first step was going and getting pre-made healthy meals and tons of vitamins and drinking tons of water.
Mm.
Getting sleep, it sounds so lame when I say it out loud, but just getting enough sleep at night, because I had to break this cycle where I wasn't sleeping and I wasn't eating. I was just getting sicker and sicker. I was spiraling down. I was going to
Yeah.
die. And I wanted to. I didn't want to be there anymore because my grief was so big.
Yeah.
After I signed up for the pageant, in an MRI machine, and it was right after I had gotten my Mrs. Daybreak title. And they're trying to figure out this tumor I have on my liver. Apparently, it's not a big deal, so we're not going to talk about that. But in the MRI machine, they come on and they check on you and they make sure breathe in, breathe out, hold still, lasting Taylor Swift. And they come on and they're like, okay, we're almost done. We have a couple more minutes. And my first thought was that I could call my mom on the way home.
Oh.
And I couldn't.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to tell her about all these medical things that I was going through. And about being freaking Mrs. Daybreak. What the heck?
Yeah.
And then a few days later, I went up to the property. It was getting ready to be demolished. Their house was up in Preston, Idaho, Napoleon Dynamite land.
Yes, I'm very familiar. That's my neck of the woods too.
Oh, for real? I didn't.
Yeah, Brigham City and
Kinda.
Logan, and I did some jobs up in Preston before, so I got to hang out at high school.
Do you know where? Okay, the hot springs. That's in Preston. Instead of turning to go to the hot springs, you would just turn right, and their house was in that little valley over that way. I got to go through some things, and before she passed away, they had already been clearing things out. She didn't pass away until end of August, and the fire happened in February. So they were going through and putting things in storage that they wanted to keep.
I can only imagine.
There was some of the most random stuff in there. So I finally got to go through it. I finally got to go see it as I could see again. And she had all kinds of things connecting her to me still. She had dolls that she had given me by her bed that I had asked her to keep in storage, and just things that I would want. And nobody, again, youngest of 7 kids, nobody else was able to go up and go through and see anything. And I'm standing there. There's bits and pieces of the house all over. And there's just sheet music, old school writings blowing around in the wind. And I wanted to try to keep part of her piano, and it got demolished before I could get there. Just even a key, anything. Because I felt
Yeah.
like if there was anything that was my mom, that represented my mom, it was a piano. And
Yeah.
I hadn't played in forever. Hold on, I need more tissue. Excuse me. My mom had taught the world how to play on that piano.
Mm,
It was a Steinway duo player.
mm.
It was beautiful. And she taught me how to play, but it had been a really long time. And she was busy teaching other kids, so I didn't get a lot of time to practice. They had already scooped it up and taken it to the dump. I know we're like running out of time. They scooped it
Oh,
up
you're
and took
fine.
it to the dump, and they let me go in to try to go look for any part of it. And they're like, "Jane, no scavenging." But I was like, "There's a huge mistake. You guys took my mom's piano." And I just had to watch there as they're unloading truckload after truckload of my mom's life.
Wow. Wow.
And this was after I signed up for the pageant. So I'm still grieving and I'm still trying to feel all of these things because I can't not feel. Because I had shut down those feelings for so long and I had already been through so much therapy. There was one point, I don't know if I told you about this part. So I had a stalker that would break into my house and climb into my bed.
Wow.
And my house was surrounded by choke cherry trees. And I had no idea that the tree in front of my house was a choke cherry tree or that it had a smell until I went to therapy and I was able to process all of that.
Mm.
And I've lived in this house for years. That tree smells beautiful.
Wow.
Feeling those things and being there and being
Mm.
at ground zero when I couldn't be there for any part of it. I wanted to be there helping so bad that I couldn't even go outside.
Yeah.
I found a bunch of family history that she was able to stash away and some of her old photo albums. And she used to do pageantry, and I didn't know that.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Right
So I
there.
think she
It was
showed up for me to help me get better. Because if I didn't sign up for that pageant, I don't know where I would have been. And it was seriously the most basic stuff. Getting enough sleep. Like, even if you're
yeah.
tired and depressed and upset,
Yep.
getting enough sleep and eating and drinking and finding somebody that you can talk to. Anybody. But, like, my mom and I were working on healing our relationship, and that's part of why it was so hard when she was gone. Because I lost her. And we weren't done healing yet. And so now I feel like I found I found so many other things. My mom wanted to write, apparently. I found pages and pages and pages. But it's mostly stuff that she went through. And if I had read it at a different part in my life, it was like things going on when I was 3. But she's talking about abuse that she was facing and how she was worried about the impact that it was going to have on me and my brother and the rest of my family. Taken out of context, if you hadn't been there, if it was somebody else reading it, they probably just would have been like, what the heck? But
Yeah. It's so
just
powerful.
validating. It's very validating. And I think if anything, my experience was real. It really did happen. There's a lot of parts of my life that I just blocked out to survive and get through
Mhm.
and to make it. But why? Anyway, so now I'm
And
in this beauty pageant and now that I've been able to take care of myself, that's like when the beauty shows through. I
mhm.
see all these women, and it's not, again, we're not in competition with each other. We're there cheering each other on.
Yeah. And even like you said, like it being about beauty or aesthetics, it's such a
'Cause it's
deeper vibe.
after.
Because just to say someone's beautiful or like to just to give compliments on like how you look, I like the way your face is rearranged. That's not a true compliment because it's like, how much can I really help that? But like you said,
Right?
when it goes deeper, You are taking care of yourself. And that is for that to be the last thing that your mom was trying to tell you, and for the healing in your relationship, for you to find that stuff in the storage, to be like, here is what she deemed the most important things to her.
Yeah.
And there was no other way for you to know or to find that out without that experience. Like, you're going in there and you're like, she saved all this stuff, these dolls, from me. It's like the healing continues. She's not,
Yeah.
to her being gone, it doesn't end the relationship healing. You're still doing it. You're still having these
Yeah.
experiences to work
Well,
through
and
that. That's beautiful. It's just
I
amazing.
feel like I'm healing for both of us too. Like I'm
Yeah.
healing by what I'm going through. I'm helping heal her and her experiences, and I'm helping
Yeah.
what voice she had be heard. Because
Yes.
there's a lot of how do I say it without sounding like an elephant like that? Oh my gosh, that was gross. I'm sorry. I'm trying to put it nicely. Expectations of women have changed. But the view of them in the world has not.
Yes.
With that, me feeling guilt for taking care of myself. Super basic stuff.
Yeah.
I shouldn't feel guilty for that. I shouldn't feel guilty for finding something that I find joy in, for finding books that I like.
Yeah.
Part of this whole pageant thing, I had to figure out who I am and explain my likes. And then I was like, I don't even know what I like anymore because I've just been so focused on being a teacher and a mom and a wife.
Yep.
I would go to sit down and turn on the TV still to this day. I don't know what to put on the TV. Mostly because I couldn't see for a really long time, you guys. So audiobooks are great, but I play video games. I don't know. I had to refigure out who I was and make sure that me being a teacher is not just is not my whole identity. There's so many parts that make me who I am. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of us have been expected to fit in this tiny little box. And we can't keep chipping away at the pieces that make us special. Why do we want to fit in the box anyway?
Yeah. Yeah. We're not in boxes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I want to rebrand, because this conversation, we didn't know where this was going to end up. And I'm so thrilled at the direction it went, because what I heard in so many different parts and points as you described this whole journey, instead of trauma and crap, which it was,
It was.
I want to rebrand it as one of my favorite things about studying mythology and goddesses in mythology is the idea of sovereignty. And I want to relate everything that you just said. The central theme that I've been hearing is sovereignty, because first of all, you claimed the title Mrs. Daybreak, right? They said, pick what you want. And you just did it. You just
to me.
And you didn't think that you'd get it. You didn't know. You're like, oh, there's probably another Mrs. Daybreak. No, there wasn't. You're it. Okay? You claimed it. You stepped into it, and it's yours. And that is incredible to me. That is better to me than if you were on a stage with 20 women all trying to be Mrs. Daybreak, and they announced you as Mrs. Daybreak. So they put a crown on your head and some flowers in your hand, and they clap for you. No, you just said, I want the title Mrs. Daybreak. And they were like, it's yours.
Yep, that's what happened.
Sovereignty, right? And then claiming your right to grieve, your right to suffer, your right to be validated in the things you've been through, that like your relationship with your mom wasn't great. Like a lot of parts where it were really hard. And even though you love her and she's gone now and you grieve her, that all gets to be true. You get to have that experience that you went through is your right. And then in stepping into this space where you're owning your sovereignty over your life, you're like putting the crown on your own head and saying, I get to decide who I am, and I get to decide how I show up. And I am more than just this teacher, this mom, this daughter. I'm more than that. And I'm all those things and more. And if I do anything in my life, if this podcast and my healing work and anything I do, if it means anything to anyone, it would be that I want that to be my legacy. I want to see people step into sovereignty and own and claim that for themselves. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for someone to claim. It's like, you've already won.
Take up the space. You
Take up
deserve
space.
to be here.
Exactly. That's beautiful.
I knew for a long time that I wasn't living up to what my mom's both my parents. I wasn't living up to either one of their expectations. I was black
None of
sheep.
us do. None of us do.
Sheep, right?
I was like perfect oldest daughter type. That was I never snuck out of the house. I was never naughty. And I can tell you one thing, I never lived up to expectations either.
Hey, I know how to back a Jeep out of a garage without waking anybody up.
Lots of beautiful skills come from being like, I can hold a schedule. I can keep people on schedule really well now.
Yeah.
And when Mother's Day is coming up,
Great
I'm the one
manager.
who message everybody and says, Mother's Day is coming up. What are we getting, Mom? Blah, 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 blah. That's oldest daughter skills, right?
Yes.
The perfectionist that I am, that came from being that. But it's no matter what our experiences are, there are stories being told through that. There's stories we have to witness and be ready to rewrite when they don't serve us anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, there's something I keep seeing online. It's like, how does it go? It's a phrase. I'm trying to learn to read my past chapters without burning all the pages.
Mhm.
Because we
That's it.
existed and we still exist. We take up space and we deserve to be here. We all belong here.
Yes.
And we're all living these crazy, incredible, complex lives. Like I've maybe been through a little bit more than like your average person, but
This last year, for sure.
oh my gosh, don't get me started. But everybody has stuff going on. And I think we forget to ask that it's okay to ask for help if you need it. You don't want to be a burden on anybody, but
Yeah.
why? If you need help, ask
Yes.
for it.
Yeah. And don't perform goodness. Don't put the mask on of I'm good and I carry all that to be good.
So our family has given up on stuff for holidays. We buy stuff whenever we want the stuff because Santa isn't going to bring us all the fancy, shiny, expensive things. Instead, what we did for this Christmas, and I was quiet about it. I didn't want to make a bunch of noise. We just looked for other ways that we could serve people. I took Christmas to a mom that just came out of a hospital with her son who didn't have anything. I went shopping on Christmas Eve and bagged it up and took it and dropped it off. I cooked a turkey for one family because it was a former student of mine. They ended up having to take her to the hospital. I cooked up the whole turkey, portioned it up in containers with potatoes, put it on my porch before we went out of town. And then I did like a bunch of there was like another family I just dropped a whole turkey dinner off to so they could take care of it themselves. And we have tons of refugees in the area. And I opened a pop-up shop and they all came and took everything that they needed. But I wasn't like, look at me, selfie. I'm like, hey, I have 2 turkeys. Please help me give them away. And it was crickets forever. And when it came time for me to be like, I have a family that's looking for this one thing. Could anybody help me find it? And people are like, oh, I'm too busy. I have to set up for a church thing. I can't do it. I have to do this. I was like,
because it has to be a formal service event or it has to be a formal.
okay.
Yeah.
I
No.
was just asking if anybody had any extra pots and pans, but that's fine.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
we're all in this together.
All in this together. And yeah. Oh, that could be a whole episode by itself. So let's hold that
We
for a
need to
future
stop.
episode.
I'll just keep talking.
I'm going to skip our question from a listener this week because we had such a good time and we talked about so many amazing things that I think would help just about anybody listening. I'm going to save that question for next week. And I want everyone out there listening to please go use and be aware of magic in your everyday life. Magic that helps you to grow, strengthen your relationships, and thrive. And you can find Amanda here on Instagram. Tell them your Instagram.
Oh, my Instagram is not so genius.
Not so genius.
Yeah.
Maybe
a
genius.
Maybe what? Maybe a genius. I don't know. It's questionable. I know a lot about random things that probably nobody needs to know about. But
hey, if
thanks to a
experiences
first-grade
or anything,
teacher. It just do that on its own. Oh wait,
no. Our video is. I didn't know it did that. Our video is having a good time here. We're making hearts and thumbs up in our videos. Okay. So
Sorry
for
for
me,
this.
Instagram at prism_healing or on Facebook, Courtney Pearl, or you can find my Facebook page at Courtney Pearl's Prism Healing. Look for my events coming up in March. I have a children's workshop that's coming up March 15th. And at the end of March, I'm doing another healing through art workshop for adults. So if you want to sign up for my events, go to my website at prism-healing.com and find all of the information you need there. And then you can also use those platforms to private message me any questions you have if you want to be featured on questions from a listener. I am going to give one more shout out and thank you to Amanda for joining me today. This conversation is amazing. It went totally in all the different directions I didn't expect, and yet it was incredible. And good luck to Blaine for editing it into something that sounds like it follows us. Good luck on that. So I would like to thank.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Can we do a quick little... The pageant is on March 23rd and tickets just barely went live. So if there's tons of ladies. There's 19 misses. Those are all the married women. And then any non-married women. We have the pageant is going to be beautiful. It's just a celebration of how incredible all of us are. So March 23rd at Murray High School.
Is the pageant. I can't wait for that's going to be amazing. So I'd like to thank Ride the Wave Media and Just Blaine for producing and managing these podcasts on Ride the Wave Media. He's amazing. He makes us sound good. And I'd like to thank Sarah Albert, who is at Daybreak Treasures. She's the one who features me on her website as an artist, and she sponsors my events. So special thanks to her. And we will see you next time here on Practically Magic.